Okay, so yesterday I talked about my first childhood home. Today I'm going to talk about the home I live in now. And we moved here in 2005, right after my mom and dad's divorce. So when we first bought the property, there was hardly anything. There was an old barn left, and then there was also just remnants of this old house. And we ended up tearing everything down to build our new one. So we built the house and, everything was very quickly done because we needed a home. And we weren't really thinking about anything other than just getting our home, and we did something. After building the house, the man that we bought the property from came up to visit. And when he saw that we built a house, he was concerned. And we didn't really understand why. That's when he told us that there was a little girl buried where the old house used to stand, and we built our house right on top of her grave. And he even showed us the rock that was used as her tombstone. The rock didn't look any different than any other rock, but we had it in our garden, and he picked up a handful of dirt and rubbed on it, and you could see the initials KL. He said he didn't know her first name, but knew her last name was Legg, L-E-G-G. So we were horrified. We had no idea that there was a little girl buried here. So obviously that put a damper on the new house, but then we started seeing her, and I have to say, it wasn't scary, but it was amazing. She would come out to play. Now, when I say see her, I don't mean you would just see a little girl running around the house and playing. You would just catch glimpses of like a dirty yellow dress and, just little brown hair. Now, a few years goes by, and we've probably only seen her a handful of times, and my dad meets his new wife, Heather. And she had a child named Hayden from a previous marriage, so they both came to live with us. So when my stepmom moved in, I became really close with her cousin, and for privacy reasons, I'm not going to tell you her real name, but we will call her Mandy. Me and Mandy became really close, and she even moved in with us. And we would get into everything together. I mean, everything. We would just have a blast. It was like we were sisters. So shortly after that, a girl moved in down the road named Sarah. We'll call her Sarah. I'm not going to tell you her real name either for privacy reasons. So we all became really close. This is where everything kind of takes a turn, and where I kind of brought this on myself because I was uneducated, and I really didn't think there was going to be any damage from what I was doing. It all started in the band room where our computer was. My dad has always been in a band, and he always had a room set up with a stage and music and just everything for his band to practice. I guess, we were just kids being stupid and looking up real ghosts caught on tape and YouTube videos, and we kind of hyped ourselves up. It was scary but fun. The videos led us to some Ouija board videos, and we decided, since we didn't have one, we were going to make one. And stupid. We made our Ouija board out of a pizza box, a Sharpie, and a shot glass. And we sat in the band room floor and we started playing. Full disclosure, don't make a Ouija board, especially out of a pizza box. We didn't really catch anything, but there was something that came through because it would hit the cymbals on the drum set. So that night we went to bed. Everything was fine. I mean, everything was fine. So when we woke up the next morning, we decided we weren't scared enough. My dad and my stepmom went grocery shopping and asked us to watch my 3-year-old brother Hayden. And we decided that we were going to keep playing. There was an old house above my property that had been abandoned for years. And we decided that we were going to go up there and have a seance. And we took my little brother. It was the dumbest thing that we could have done, and I regret it a lot. But I don't think we knew that we were really going to see something. We wouldn't have brought Hayden if we thought we were actually going to do something dangerous, but just know that we messed up, and we know we did. So we get to the house, and it's me, Mandy, and Sarah, and Hayden. And all we were going to do was just ask questions out loud. We start asking yes or no questions. And we're all standing in a circle holding hands with Hayden in the middle. That way, if something did happen, one of us could grab him and run. And we asked some questions. Knock once on the house for yes and 2 for no. And it started off really lighthearted. And then Sarah asked if again, don't do that. So the knocking stopped completely, but then we hear this loud, beating on the trees around us. The only way I can really describe it, it was like somebody was running really fast all around us with a stick and was hitting all of the trees around us really, really fast. We were all really scared, and we were kind of frozen. And that's when my little brother started crying and said that the monsters were coming down the hill. We took off running back to my house, and when we looked back at the old house, the blinds were completely taken off of the window in the old house, and we just kept running. When we got back into my house, we felt so bad, and we were trying to calm Hayden down, but he was scared, and we knew we messed up. We were all just 12 and 13. We didn't know how bad what we done really was. And then when my dad and my stepmom came home, when they came home, we told my stepmom everything. And of course she was upset, but she never, snapped at us. But she just told us, what we did was really dangerous. After that is when everything got really bad. And this is where everything kicks off to a dangerous point. And I'm sorry. The activity in the house got really bad to the point where me and Mandy didn't want to be home alone anymore. But we really had no choice. My dad and my stepmom would have to go grocery shopping, and they just got together, so of course they're going to go out on little dates and stuff where they don't really want us there, so we were stuck. This was the night that everything changed for all of us, and it is the worst night that I have ever lived through, and I hope at least one person will learn from my mistakes and not do what I did. My dad and my stepmom had to leave to go shopping or whatever, and me and Mandy begged and cried to please not leave us alone. I don't think they really knew that we weren't just being stupid kids, that something really was happening. So I don't blame them for it, but this will be fucked. After they left, me and Mandy sat on the couch and turned on the TV to try to keep the mood light. And we just knew something really bad was about to happen. While watching TV, I looked over at Mandy and she was staring in the corner. She wasn't making a noise, but there were tears just falling from her cheeks. She was frozen. The whole paralyzed with fear, it's real. And I didn't really want to ask her what was wrong because I just knew that whatever it was, I didn't want to know. She whispered, "Do you see it?" And I told her I didn't want to look. But she was so scared. And when I looked in the corner, I saw it. We had a coat rack, a metal coat rack that would stand in the floor beside our back door. And when I looked, it took me a minute, but I saw it and it was spinning really, really slow. I don't know how long we stared at it. It was a while. And we just sat there scared to death. I mean, we were sobbing, but like nothing was coming out. While we were staring at the coat rack, we started hearing growling, like a low guttural growl all through the house. It's like being surrounded, but you can't see where your enemy is. And you have no weapons. You are just trapped. That's when Mandy fell into a seizure. And she stiffened up and she started convulsing and fell off the couch. And we got into the floor and I tried to help. It looked like she was unconscious and she was just convulsing in the floor and everything was still happening. Like nothing stopped. And then she started screaming. It looked like she was unconscious and she was just convulsing in the floor and everything was still happening. Like nothing stopped. And then she started screaming. She was choking. And I know that people with seizures sometimes choke on their tongue. And I was trying to see if that's what was happening. But then she started sticking her hand in her mouth. She would stick her hand in her mouth and then flick it out. I can't describe it. And she started saying to get the maggots off of her. She was choking on maggots that weren't there. And, you know, I don't know. It was just scary. This went on for about 40 seconds. And I was scared. I didn't know how to help her. I didn't know what was wrong. So I called 911. After I called 911, they told me that it was just a seizure and that she would be okay. And if we needed an ambulance, they would send one. But my dad pulled in and he helped. When my stepmom and my dad got there, they just saw Mandy on the floor. Nothing else. Everything else had stopped. It was like it was trying to drive us crazy. So we just went into my bedroom and talked about it. We decided we weren't going to tell anybody because who would believe us? How do you explain something that crazy? It just sounds unbelievable. We didn't tell anybody for about a month. And then one morning, with all the activity that was building up, we felt like we had no choice. And we told my stepmom, and she believed us. If anybody has been through these types of situations, you understand how important it is to have somebody believe you and try to help, because you already question if you're crazy or not. But after that, the activity picked up, and it started with my stepmom too. She was about 7 months pregnant with my little brother, Devin. We were all walking to the kitchen to start making breakfast when a vase sitting up against the wall on top of my refrigerator flew and missed my pregnant stepmother's head. It was dangerous, and it was on the attack with everybody. And we started to fear for the safety of my little brothers. Because of the activity in the home, it started taking a toll on me in school. And I couldn't sleep at night because I was too scared, so I started falling asleep in class, usually Spanish. I wasn't fond of my Spanish teacher. Her name was Miss Snyder, and I think everybody knew that, and I don't think she really liked me either, but she helped me. I started isolating myself in my bedroom, and one night while I was trying to fall asleep, a stack of my CDs flew off of my computer desk and hit me. I stayed awake all night because I was scared of what would happen if I fell asleep. And when I got to school the next morning in homeroom, Miss Snyder came to my homeroom and asked to speak with me outside. When I got out there, I just kept thinking, this is literally the last thing I need, is for her to yell at me for what I did or didn't do. But when I got out there, she really took me in. Before I said anything, she looked at me and said, "God told me to pray for you last night. What's going on in your home?" I immediately broke down because I always felt like I was left behind, that when I prayed, nobody was listening. Miss Snyder and Miss Ferguson talked to me at lunch, and I got to tell them everything that was happening, and they helped me. And the next day, they brought me holy water and hand sanitizer bottles. When I came home that day, I felt strong and I felt empowered. And I finally had a weapon to use against the attacker. It didn't last. As soon as I got home, nobody else was home, and I figured that would be the best time to do it. They told me to put it on the windows and doors of every room and in the corners of every room. I had my hair in a ponytail, and I was walking through every room, flicking the holy water and doing everything they told me to. And then when I got to my room, it wouldn't let me. I did every other room first because it was my fault that I brought it here. And I wanted my family to be safe, and I knew I didn't have that much. When I got to my room, my hair got pulled from my ponytail. It would have been no different than somebody standing behind me and grabbing my ponytail and pulling as hard as they could. It brought me to the floor, and it spilled my holy water. I felt defeated, but I felt victorious at the same time because I at least got everybody else's room done, and I got the family room and the kitchen done too. So I won. And of course, the next day, Miss Snyder and Miss Ferguson brought me some more. Bigger bottle this time. But I was punished severely for trying. That night, when I put the holy water in my room, it made it a point to make it clear that it can't be stopped. That night, a girl that I was trying to be friends with, I'm not going to say her name either, but we'll call her Caitlin. She wanted to come over and spend the night. We did girl stuff. We watched scary movies, and we listened to music, and we talked about boys and all the typical whatever. And we decided to go to bed. I woke up from a nightmare. We had just watched The Ring, and I had a nightmare about the girl from The Ring. And when I woke up, I sat on the edge of my bed, and as soon as I laid back down, it broke loose. Caitlin was already asleep. And as soon as I laid down, I couldn't move. I felt a pressure on my chest, and something, not like a hand, but a pressure over my nose and mouth. I couldn't breathe. I felt like this was it. Like this, I'm dying and I'm not going to be able to stop it. And I prayed for anything. I prayed for the strength to just move 2 fingers so I could pinch Caitlin to wake her up and go get help. But I had no control, but I could see everything. There was a tall black figure standing by my bedroom door, about 7 feet tall, looked like a shadow, and he was wearing a hat, almost like a top hat. I finally saw it, and I knew that he was the one who was doing all of this. And something else ran past the light on my computer, and I could move and I could breathe. The entity in the hat was gone. The other thing was gone, and I was awake, and I had full control of my body. I didn't go back to sleep, but I didn't tell anybody else either. A little while later, years later, my little brother Devin was about 3 years old when he told us about his friend. He wasn't necessarily a friend. My dad was getting some things out of the garage when my brother started screaming that the man was going to get Daddy, and he was begging for Daddy to come back into the truck. When we asked Devin what the man looked like, he described a shadow figure with a hat, and he called him the Fancy Man. When I tell you my heart dropped, it was immediate fear, because now my baby brother is seeing the thing that attacked me, and I didn't know if he would come after Devin. We started referring to him as the Fancy Man because that's what everybody in the home knew what he was. And everything just kept getting worse. There was no stop. One day, Devin told me where the Fancy Man was. He said that he sleeps under my bed. There was no under my bed. It was a mattress on the floor. Devin said that the Fancy Man didn't like me, and that he was going to hurt me, and that he was scared. And I knew that something had to be done. I started staying with a friend because I felt like I was the catalyst that was causing all of the activity in the home. So I moved in with my best friend at the time, and her family took me in. I can't film this part without crying. So the family that took me in was a beautiful family, and I'll never be able to thank them for all the wonderful things that they did for me. After a while, I inevitably decided to move in with my mother in Florida. So everything took a break for a little while. When I moved in with my mom, everything was fine. And it was a much needed break from everything happening at home. But I did come back. But this time when I came back, I had the house to myself. My stepmom and my dad moved out, and the house was all mine. That's all I can do emotionally today. But if you have any questions, message me. You can comment. I'm here. And thank you for watching. I'll be posting more every day until I get the entire story out. I'll be doing a lot of different stuff, and I'll be talking about the history of the property tomorrow.